So the Ohio Medical Marijuana Act passed in 2016. As of September 8th of 2018, under the law, Ohio will have an active medical marijuana program in which patients who receive a proper recommendation from a qualified physician can have certain conditions treated with medical marijuana, so long as those conditions are qualified medical conditions under the law. The Medical Marijuana Act allows for the licensing of cultivators that actually grow medical marijuana, processors who produce the product, and retail dispensaries, which it will be the only place where patients can get their recommended medical marijuana. The program is run through the Ohio Department of Commerce as well as the State Board of Pharmacy. And those entities will license individuals to produce the products, and they'll also take registrations of patients and caregivers, or the people who help patients if they can't help themselves. And so those patients will be able to access medical marijuana from retail dispensaries throughout the state as of September 8th of 2018. Ohio is a bit nuanced in that it allows for certain forms of administration, including edibles, patches, tinctures, oils, but it does prohibit smoking. So any form of combustible marijuana is still prohibited. Vaporizing is okay, but smoking is not. So if I was an employer in Ohio trying to assess what are my risks and responsibilities for employees that may have a recommendation or even may not have a recommendation and want to have one, I would ensure that my policies are clear in what the expectations are for employees, so that there isn't a question in the future of what happens if somebody has a legitimate recommendation for a qualified condition and uses it and is tested. Your employer policies will be key. If you want to have a completely drug-free workplace in the traditional sense, then your policies should so state. And at some point, you will be faced with this type of a situation where an employee has used, and it will be legal under Ohio law. But your policies need to be consistent and need to be clear.
Okay, so the Bureau has a drug-free workplace program. Actually, it's a drug-free safety program. And under that program, if an employer implements approximately 5 elements of the program, they can obtain a discount on their workers' comp premiums. The key elements include things like safety training for employees, supervisor training, drug testing, and employee assistance. The medical marijuana statute doesn't really impact that program because it is still a tested drug under the program, and it's still be treated under the program the way it's currently treated. A positive test under the program doesn't mean that the employer must take any particular action against that employee. The purpose of the program is more one of education, assistance, employee assistance. So there is testing in the program, but if a person tests positive, there's no mandate in the program that the employer terminate that employee to participate and be eligible for the discount.
So when we look at cannabis job growth and the interest in cannabis jobs, we've seen Indeed.com has seen a 400% increase, across the nation of people searching for jobs in cannabis. Whereas tech jobs have only grown at about 90% over the last year. So, we boil that down into states or municipalities that are adding actual cannabis jobs. It becomes a strong pulling force for employees to come and work at those places, which takes qualified, capable employees from non-cannabis industries, which can be a real challenge for cannabis and non-cannabis employers. So when we talk about, which direction does an employer want to go in terms of, the extent to which they have a drug policy or a zero tolerance policy, do drug testing, I really like to think about it in terms of, what does the business owner or the leadership team of a business want out of that business, and how do they want and out of their employees. And so, for some and a lot of people, it can be even a moral issue, or it's just a very conservative thought process where they do not want any drug use whatsoever by the people that work in their company. And that's certainly a fair point of view. However, they do have to recognize that there are implications to that point of view as it relates to the people they'll be able to hire, the potential retention of their current employees, and the costs associated with that. Whereas the flip side to that is, you take a more liberal stance on things and you say maybe we won't test for marijuana at all in pre-hire or random, and we just limit those to, to the harder drugs. And so when you do that, there can be implications around the workers' comp policies, things like that, but you're not excluding, what can potentially be a large portion of a workforce of qualified, capable individuals. So, there's trade-offs on both sides, and it's really a matter of what the values are of that company and the leadership team of the company. So when you think about, we make the assumption that, you're not going to use marijuana or any drug or substance on the job. But the reality is it does happen, and it's very challenging with marijuana specifically to pinpoint that because the testing is very imprecise. It'll be in your system for 20, 30 days after a single use, and for some people, and it varies widely by person. And so, when you look at how do you, the question comes up, how do I handle that if an employee is using it, or I believe an employee is using it on the job? And the simple yet complex answer to that is you have to have a very strong performance management disciplinary process in place so that you're managing the behavior, not the suspicion of what caused the behavior, what that employee is using. And so, really being focused on job requirements, performance to those job requirements, and then correcting that down a disciplinary path where needed to ensure that, every employee that shows up at your workplace is ready and able to work to the best of their ability.